Kid Cudi's recent resurgence has been something crazy to see, and as a Kid Cudi fan, I personally love it. Kid Cudi is a great artist, and sometimes I feel like people take him for granted. And personally, I feel like a song like Soundtrack to My Life highlights perfectly what I think Kid Cudi does best. So, let's talk about it. A lot of what makes Kid Cudi special is how unique of an artist he is. And that uniqueness can be seen all throughout this track. Even down to the song's title, Soundtrack to My Life, I feel like it's a very unique concept. Right now, the idea that your life is a movie is kind of normal, kind of generic, I'd say. But this was the first time that I heard someone describe their life and say like, well, this is what a soundtrack about my life would sound like. And in my opinion, the song does live up to the expectations set up by the title. This song's structure is kind of like a Christmas carol. The first verse, or the first act, I guess, looks at his past, the second looks at his present, and the third looks at his future. Cudi's honesty is highlighted from the jump as he flips the concept of 99 Problems by Jay-Z to highlight his failures in the love game.
I got 99 problems and they all bitch.
And being that the music was what it was in 2009, Kid Cudi is a brave soul for building the hook around his imperfections. The same year that the Black Eyed Peas had the biggest songs of the year. And most of the songs that topped the charts were just party songs. And I guess it's not just the hook that's built around Cudi's imperfections, because the track is basically about Cudi's issues.
I've got some issues that nobody.
In the first verse, we get to see some of Cudi's insecurities, specifically when he compares himself to Jay-Z,
Wish I was Jigga Man.
saying that he hopes he could be like him, as he feels that he cares too much for what people might think, or girls, I guess. And you know, I can't say I relate, but I get what he's saying. And you know, the first verse is more about setting the stage, getting to know who Kid Cudi is by looking at his upbringing and stuff. And we don't really get to see any issues with him until the end of the verse, where he basically says that despite all the sacrifices that his mom made, he still felt sad inside.
Y'all didn't see the little bit of sadness in me.
And that's where the whole thing about having issues that nobody can see comes into play. But also, I really like the second half of the hook,
Bring them to the life in me.
because he's basically talking to the fans when he's saying, I bring them to the light for you. Kind of the same message that he puts out in the prayer when he's like talking about, I made these songs for you.
I have made these songs for you.
And you know, it's really nice. However, in the second verse, we do get to see a lot of the issues that Cudi's focusing on. He talks about things from how his dad's death affected him to how he's trying to figure out how the world works in order to like make it make sense in his mind. There's a lot of good imagery going on in the second verse towards the second half of it. Probably my favorite line, or some of my favorite, have to be the moon will illuminate my room and soon I'm consumed by my doom. Just a crazy rhyme scheme first off. And it's also a cool way to subtly say that he's in a dark place. And later on in the verse, he kind of expands on this thinking. At least when he says, I live in a cocoon opposite of Cancun, where it is never sunny, the dark side of the moon. Because if the moon is the only light source that your room is getting, well, it's obviously gonna be dark. It's especially gonna be dark if the moon is like not shining on you. The dark side of the moon. In the third verse, he looks forward to his future. And in his mind, it's not looking very bright. He starts out the verse like very off the deep end, where he's like, I might do some coke.
It's close to go and try some coke.
Quick bar that I should highlight because it's one of my favorite bars. Haters shake my hand, but I keep the sanitizer on deck.
Hey, shake my hand, but I keep the sanitizer on deck.
Come on, bro. Like, that's awesome. As we go on with the third verse, it shows Cudi's fears of never growing to be old and his hopes to one day have someone in his life that he can love in a relationship type of way.
Hope I really get to see 30. Wanna settle down, stop being so flirty.
But he ends his verse with one of the coldest lines that I've ever heard. And honestly, it's really sad.
I am happy, that's just the saddest lie.
And with all of this being taken into account, it makes for a solid song and a fan favorite. And honestly, I agree. It's a great song that kind of illustrates what makes Kid Cudi Kid Cudi. And honestly, an underrated song in some areas. But yeah, shout out to Kid Cudi. And shout out to Jay Dilla. I'm gonna let the outro roll.